Hey, yo, what's going on, guys? Happy Thursday, man. Happy Thursday. Um, Lomachenko is going to be fighting George Kambosos one of these days. I don't really know when, but I was watching a little bit of the press conference and the little face-off with Georgie, you know, the guy that became undisputed by upsetting Teofimo Lopez and fought Devin Haney twice for a total of 24 rounds. Man, salute to George Kambosos for maximizing his boxing career, right? Because he's looked like shit in a couple of times, guys like against Maxie Hughes and Mickey Bay, but when it really mattered against Teofimo Lopez, that was a night that George Kambosos changed his life. He changed his boxing career. He fucking made it to sell out stadiums, even if he did get beat by Devin Haney twice. He accomplished his dream. And to still want to fight Lomachenko, bro, that's incredible. That's badass, man. I'm excited for him. I can't wait to see what it is that he does against Lomachenko. Obviously, in his last fight against the Southpaw, he looked horrible. Horrible he looked. And all I got to ask is this the return of Vasily No Mas Chenko? To my knowledge, George Kambosos has never been stopped, right? He's never been stopped, and, well, maybe this is the fight that he does. I was watching that fight that he had with Maxie Hughes, and George Kambosos looked horrible. Like he fucking lost that fight. And I was thinking to myself, bro, if that was Lomachenko that night, probably stops you. Now, George has a great chin. And if Teofimo Lopez didn't stop George, I don't see how Lomachenko can. But if there's a will, there's a way. And how Maxie Hughes was piecing apart and outboxing George Kambosos, which makes no sense to me because George Kambosos was one of Manny Pacquiao's main sparring partners, right? He sparred Manny Pacquiao over 200 and something rounds, 240 rounds. Not a genius, but if you were to divide 240 by 12, you're around 20 professional full-fledged fights with Pacquiao. And the reason I bring that up is George Kambosos, in terms of not only his punch selection, but foot placement, when he fought Maxie Hughes, he looked fucking horrible. I'm like, bro, have you fought a southpaw before? Yeah, you did, Manny Pacquiao. So why do you not have certain bags up your tricks up against a southpaw, right? I don't know when's the last time Vasily Lomachenko fought. He hasn't fought since, the Devin Haney fight, at least to my knowledge. So it's been a little over a year, I would say. Nevertheless, I expect high things of Vasily Lomachenko, right? He's, I don't know, between 34 to 36 years old. That's still relatively young. On top of being young, he has to make a statement. Vasily Lomachenko has to make a statement, and it starts with George Kambosos. He must stop George Kambosos. He has to get a stoppage, right? A lot of people like to give Vasily Lomachenko a ridiculous amount of support in terms of how great of a fighter he is as a professional. And I'm not one of those guys. I'm not really impressed with Vasily Lomachenko's boxing career as a professional. I'm not trying to discredit the man. He's an amazing boxer. But like when people talk about, oh, well, he started at 126 and 130 and 135, that's not his weight class. Bro, he won a gold medal at 132 pounds in the London Olympics, if I'm not mistaken. So he's always competed at 132. You get what I'm saying? So when people say, oh, he's in his third weight class and these guys are much bigger, he's been fighting these 132 pounders since he was an amateur. So I'm not going to be like, oh my goodness, guys, like No, he won 2 gold medals in 2 different weight classes. You know, 132-ish and then like 123, 26 pounds. He's won 2 gold medals in 2 different weight classes. So for him to become a champion at 135 is not that impressive to me, because I'm like, that's what you're kind of supposed to do, right? Guys like George Kambosos are career 135 pounders, at least to my knowledge. Maybe he competed at 130. I'm not too sure. But George Kambosos will not survive at 140. George Kambosos will not survive at 147. His power, his speed, probably his chin, none of that translates over to the higher divisions. God damn, what's with the itchy ass back? In my opinion, man, Lomachenko has to look impressive against George Kambosos, and he must stop him. Okay? The same pressure that I put on my boy Ruben Villa when he's fighting these guys that really nobody has heard of, and he's got to get the stoppage. That's what Lomachenko has to do as well. He has to stop people, and he has to remind people that, hey, I am a knockout artist. Maybe not a Deontay Wilder with one punch, or nor do I have the left hook from hell like Ryan Garcia, but it's going to be through death by a million cuts. It's going to be accumulation of punishment, a barrage of punches, and that's how I'm going to stop my opponents. Because look at David Benavidez. Look at David Benavidez. He doesn't have a He doesn't have a one-punch knockout. It's an accumulation of punishment. But guess what? Shit like that sells. Look at the highlight versus Porky Medina that David Benavidez had. Look at those punches that he threw at Ronald Ellis. It's incredible flurries. Lomachenko can do that. I will say this, man, that that George Kambosos, he does have a little bit of advantages over Loma. That maybe, along with being a little more active than him, it might benefit him, and possibly George Kambosos can pull an upset. Possibly. And that is, he actually has the win over Teofimo Lopez. And guess what? He wasn't afraid of Teofimo Lopez like Lomachenko was when he fought Teo for the first 5 or 6 rounds. Loma was scared. I've never seen Loma ever circle away and run away from a fighter other than Teofimo Lopez, which was crazy to me because yes, Teo is strong. Yes, Teo is a power puncher. So obviously Lomachenko had to tread lightly for the first rounds. But 6 rounds, bro, before you actually turn it up a notch, like, damn, bro. Like, it's not like Teo did all that great. It's just, you just spotted him 6 rounds and merely, dude, you know what? There's a fucking basketball game today. Man, let me see. Yep, and I missed it. Oh, man, I'm upset. That sucks. Yep, I missed that basketball game. What the fuck, dude? Anyway, going back to George Kambosos, he has a win over Teofimo Lopez, so I think he has more grit, much more machismo, much more valor, right? Even though that there are better, athletic, stronger fighters than George Kambosos, his willingness to take on the toughest fights, that's commendable. I believe he has a stronger mindset than Lomachenko, much more determined. Get what I'm saying? He's actually willing to fight Devin Haney when he wasn't necessarily supposed to. Obviously, he was supposed to be a cherry pick versus Teofimo Lopez, and look what he decides to do. He could have retired, and nobody would think that George Kambosos had a Hall of Fame career, similar to Andy Ruiz, right? It's like a very similar career, Andy Ruiz versus George Kambosos. But Andy Ruiz, George Kambosos, he was able to maximize his career to the fullest, where Andy Ruiz fucked it up, right? After beating Anthony Joshua, okay, he lost the rematch, no big deal. But go fight Deontay Wilder. To this day, he hasn't fought Deontay Wilder. He could have maximized another fight. Essentially, that's what George Kambosos is doing. He's maximizing his boxing career by fighting the guys that he always. I believe George Kambosos, if he were to become victorious against Lomachenko, I believe he would try to unify with Shakur Stevenson or run it back with Loma, right? Whereas Loma, if he were to beat George Kambosos, I'm not too sure if he would go and fight Shakur Stevenson, right? Because why the fuck would you go and fight Shakur Stevenson? Like, if I'm Tank Davis as well, just to integrate him into the career, Tank wouldn't fight Shakur Stevenson either. Like, why would you? Look, Edwin De Los Santos is similar to Tank. He's fast and explosive, can punch. And look what happened when Shakur tasted his power. He went on his bicycle. Like, no one wins in that performance, right? This isn't a scoring criteria of tag you're it and I'm gonna walk away. Look, man. Sorry, I didn't mean to deviate and incorporate Tank into this equation, but yeah, Lomachenko, I just don't feel like he's that dude, right? I feel like his whole boxing career, I don't know if Speed would agree with it, but his whole boxing career is essentially been fabricated. It's been promoted properly to, get to this moniker of No Mas Chenko. But he has to get the name back. He's got to get back that attitude and that grit, right? Because I feel like he's lost it. He's made a couple of excuses in the highest of moments. When he had an opportunity to beat Devin Haney, he came up short. I thought he won, but regardless, it was a close fight. It's not like he washed Devin. And the same thing with Teofimo. These guys are 23-year-olds, 22-year-olds that they don't have nowhere close to your experience as a pro or as an amateur. You're supposed to just dominate them like Alexander Usyk, your contemporary, is doing in the heavyweight division. Lomachenko is supposed to be that force. He's essentially supposed to be Alexander Usyk. Whatever position that Usyk is in and what Usyk has accomplished, that's what Lomachenko should have accomplished in his career. If he's so revered and loved by all these fans like Speed, that's what Lomachenko has to do. He's failed them all. He's failed them all. But anyway, man, he's got to return back to his thing. I want to go to a different topic, and I'll end this live because it's relatively short. Stephen Fulton, Deontay Wilder, Devin Haney, and Errol Spence. I repeat, Stephen Fulton, Devin Haney, Deontay Wilder, and Errol Spence. What do all four of those fighters have in common? Maybe you can take Errol Spence out of the equation and Stephen Fulton, but in terms of their fan base, no, you can add them all. In terms of their fan base, they're all sore fucking losers. They're all sore losers. Like, I'm an Errol Spence fan, right? And when Bud knocked him down in the second round, I looked at my brother. I was like, damn, bro, he got hit by a jab. He got dropped by a jab to his neck. I was like, this fight is over. Because, when you get dropped and pieced apart and you get dropped in the second round by a push jab, a 2-1, and you fall, imagine when Bud Crawford's going to hit you with his strongest shit. Or you start getting fatigued. That performance between Bud Crawford, that was shocking. That was shocking to me. I thought this fight really was a 50-50. I didn't care if Bud Crawford would win. I don't care if Errol Spence would win, but I thought it was going to be competitive. That was extremely one-sided. You see? When I saw fights like Canelo versus Jermell Charlo, I knew those fights weren't going to be competitive, right? But I didn't expect Jermell to cower like that. With Errol, I just didn't see that happening. Just that one-sided of a beatdown. If you look at those pictures, man, holy shit. It looked like some Emmett Till situation. Like those pictures, I've never seen pictures like that before. Like, those are the most horrific pictures that I've ever seen in the sport of boxing. When I saw Robert Guerrero versus Andre Berto, and Andre Berto had inflammation essential in his eyes, the picture still didn't look that bad. Like Errol's face. Oh my goodness, it was horrible. So what do those four fighters have in common? Stephen Fulton, Deontay Wilder, Errol Spence. Deontay Wilder, Stephen Fulton, Errol Spence, and Devin Haney. Their fan bases are fucking losers, man. They're sore losers, right? Deontay Wilder, look at what Deontay Wilder did. He blamed Mark Breland, right? He fired Mark Breland, threw his name in the dirt. And they made the most excuses that Tyson Fury cheated, right? Horrible, horrible. Just like, bro, just accept defeat like a man, right? Like, not only were you defeated, you were destroyed. And I know that you want to cling on to any type of conspiracy out there, but he was just superior than you. And it's hard to fathom because he's a white dude that was inactive for 2-3 years, was damn near 500 pounds, and running in the waterfalls, I don't know, of Las Vegas. It's supposed to be a cherry pick. Errol Spence didn't really make any excuses, but his fans, oh my goodness, man. Man, check those gloves of Bud Crawford. And all of these excuses came, right? Stephen Fulton, look how they behave towards Naoya Inoue. They don't even fuck with Stephen Fulton like that. Get what I'm saying? Like, they're not even supportive of Stephen Fulton. But they just couldn't stomach how Naoya Inoue was the better outboxer, much more speed and power. And when he knocked him out in front of all those people, took his O away from Stephen Fulton and his 2 unified belts. Oh my God, Naoya, you got to move up to 135 and fight American fighters and Tank Davis. They couldn't stomach that there's other fighters better than them. Devin Haney, look what they're doing to Ryan Garcia. The only way that they can beat us, they love to use the word they. The only word that they can beat us is by cheating us. Dude. Oh my goodness, man. But people fail to realize that. I love Devin Haney, man. You know, I feel like he's building his career properly, right? And I saw something earlier today that I don't know if it was the context of will he ever fight Ryan Garcia or will he ever box again? And Devin Haney is taking this fight, you know, as he should. Like, it's humbled him to like an extreme, like where he's questioning and he's taking this loss horribly, as well as he should, I suppose. But like, if you feel like you got cheated, try to get a get back, right? Devin Haney had a hard fight with Jorge Linares. He had a tough fight versus Jojo Diaz and Lomachenko. And you might say that he only won those fights because he's not much bigger than those guys, much more younger. He always had an advantage in those fights, whether it was height, youth, arm length, size, whatever the case may be. But when he finally fought someone his size, he was chinier than ever. For supposedly being in the supreme boxer, the next coming of Floyd Mayweather, he couldn't take away Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia's left hook. As superior that Devin Haney is supposed to be than Ryan Garcia, based on resume and accomplishments, he could not take away the only weapon that Ryan Garcia had, was the left hook. He got caught in the first minute of their fight. And look at all of the excuses that the rabid fan base of Devin Haney, look at the spin zone narratives that they've done and created. They did the same thing with Errol Spence. They did the same thing with Deontay Wilder. They did the same thing with Stephen Fulton. They just cannot accept the loss. They cannot accept that the black fighter in America is no longer the force, the dominator of the sport. They're no longer carrying the sport of boxing. If you look at the first, I don't know, well, you can add Bud Crawford, right? But if you look at the top 10 list, like if you were to do it properly, right? You got Usyk up there. You got Tyson Fury. I don't know. You can exclude the heavyweights, but Canelo, Naoya Inoue, Bud Crawford. Like the world has caught on. You could definitely add Junto Nakatani in there. I would add Subriel Matias. That guy's skill is incredible. Archer Beterbiev Bivol. You know, the American fan base is no longer they no longer support their athletes. And what's crazy, especially in the sport of boxing, it's like, look, bro, in basketball and football, the best teams and the best players that we follow, they take losses, right? But they know that they have till tomorrow to make it up again. On the sport of boxing, I don't know why in boxing everyone cares so much about a loss or a couple of losses. Like, bro, just because you lose doesn't mean the end of the world. So hopefully Devin doesn't take that one loss. Bro, get your get back. See, Oscar De La Hoya beat Fernando Vargas when Fernando Vargas was on juice. If you're that much better, you should be able to beat these fighters. Naoya anyway, Luis Neri had been on some type of diuretic, a banned substance, and Naoya anyway was able to piece him apart, right? Canelo been eating, Mexican beef and meat with clenbuterol. Floyd Mayweather pieced them apart. If you're that dude, you should still be able to win these fights, period. But yeah, man, they are the biggest sore losers. I'm not trying to absolve any guilt from Ryan Garcia. I don't really like the guy. I don't really respect him in terms of how he moves in and outside of the ring. He's another guy that like blames everybody around him and then comes back and like I wouldn't say apologize, but it's just he's lost a lot of opportunities that could have maximized his career without necessarily needing to manipulate and deceive, right? But yeah, he's a master manipulator and a liar. Whether he reveals his hand or plays his hand and he thinks he's all that smart, I mean, the reality is it's working for him. He's not interested in becoming a champion or a Hall of Famer. He's just interested in maximizing the potential of his career from an incentive and a monetized standpoint, right? Sort of like George Kambosos, but George Kambosos has done it the correct way, right? Regardless, man, Stephen Fulton, Deontay Wilder, Errol Spence, and Devin Haney's fans, they're horrible. Just horrible. If they want to know why the sport of boxing is dying, it's because of those type of fans. Those type of fans is what's ruining the sport of boxing. The fans that cannot accept the loss the correct way. You see what I'm saying? The foreign fighter American fan base, Manny Pacquiao, guys like Canelo Alvarez, the foreign fighter outside of America has to work 10 times as hard to get recognized. Get what I'm saying? Look how many weight classes Canelo has had to move up to get respect, right? Look how many fights against amazing undefeated fighters has he had to face to essentially become the pound for pound fighter in the world, right? Look at Shakur Stevenson, right? The expectations of the American fighter you can't even compare them to the foreigner, right? And they put their American fan and their fighters up on this pedestal. Like, for example, Mayweather and Pacquiao. Pacquiao started boxing at 135, became a champ at 135, 140, and 147, right? 3 weight classes. Maybe you can give him a 154 belt because I think he beat Canelo, but I don't know if Canelo was a champion there at that time. Regardless, I think he was because he beat Austin Trout. So about 3-4 weight divisions, Floyd Mayweather, right? Pacquiao, for the same token, had to work 10 times as harder than Floyd from like 108 pounds all the way to essentially 152 when he fought, I don't know, Oscar De La Hoya or Antonio Margarito, right? 8, 9-time division champ. And Max Kellerman said it beautifully. Manny Pacquiao is the best pound-for-pound fighter that he's ever seen because of the weight class that he fought, and to even go all the way up to 147, right? Basically 50 pounds. And to lose, controversially, to Floyd Mayweather on a close fight, and Floyd Mayweather played the most cautious performance that you can get, and to barely get outboxed, that lets you know how much of a force Manny Pacquiao is. It's like not even you can't even compare it. If you were to compare the Mexican fighter, they have always, quote unquote, sacrificed their booty for the top dollar. Look at Emmanuel Navarrete. He's not a 135-pound fighter. He should still be fighting at 126, maybe at 130, just because if you really look at his body size, like he's like, you know, tantito gordito, bro, from the waist, right? He doesn't have big arms, big shoulder, big back. He just, I don't know, very inflated, very bloated from this midsection. Well, they're trying to feed him to Shakur Stevenson, right? Navarrete starting at 122, champion there, 126, 130, and now it's supposed to be moving up to 135. To essentially, they're going to put him up against Shakur Stevenson, right? Knowing that Shakur Stevenson is, I don't know why they're so interested in building him up. I win. Look at Tank Davis. They put him on a pedestal as one of the greatest fighters of today. A lot of people will have him on their pound-for-pound list, but what has he accomplished? Right? Look what they did to Leo Santa Cruz. They made him move up, essentially, inactivity in fight Tank Davis at 130 pounds just to get knocked out in 5 rounds. You get what I'm saying? The foreign fighter has to, and like always, has to work 5 or 10 times tougher just to gain the same respect as the lazy Americans. That's really the downfall. And the downfall is of the boxing American fan base is that you cannot willing to accept the loss and look from outside from, you know, like, and accept like, bro, it's all right if they got better shit and better fighters. Everything comes in waves. Everything comes in waves. So maybe Abdullah Mason, Shushu Carrington, and all of these fighters, they'll be the next fighters that'll, you know, hold it down for the American guys like Keyshawn Davis. They might hold it for the American boxing, right? But that doesn't mean you have to shit on your competition or other countries. Like, bro, this is boxing at a sport. Look how baseball embraces Shohei Ohtani. Or the Frenchman in basketball from San Antonio, when I don't know, Wemby. I'm just calling that. I don't really know his last name. Or Giannis Antetokounmpo from, like, I don't know, wherever he's from. You get what I'm saying? Look how other sports appreciate the foreign fighter or the foreign athlete and embrace him, and then they win championships together. You get what I'm saying? But in boxing, oh my goodness, it ain't like that. They don't embrace the outsider. As a collective, they look at it like, oh man, they might be better than us. We got to beat them. Rather than just accept how great of a fighter they truly are. Right? It's crazy, man. It's crazy. I don't really understand it. Yo, but on that note, man, y'all guys have a good night. Have a safe weekend. Well, I mean, tomorrow's Friday, but it's a weekend for me. But regardless, man, stay safe out there. Hopefully Lomachenko comes and knocks out George Kambosos. I don't know if it's going to happen. You know, history would say that he should win, you know, unanimous decision. But I need a knockout from No Mas Chenko, man. I need him to remind people who he was when he was stopping guys that were inactive, like Nicholas Waters, and making guys move up in weight class, like Guillermo Rigondeaux. I need that Lomachenko back. The Lomachenko that used to throw a lot of punches, dig to the body, come upstairs on the inside like he did to Gary Russell. I need that Lomachenko back. The Lomachenko that wasn't afraid, you know, to fight the likes of Richard Comey, Devin Haney. I need that Lomachenko back. I don't want to see the Lomachenko, right, that has excuses, that comes up short against guys like Teofimo Lopez. I don't want to see that Lomachenko back, man. I need to see the GOAT. You know, the guy that has a record of like 396 wins to like 1 loss in the amateurs and 2 gold medals. I need to see that dude back. Yo, guys, on that note, man, stay safe. I'll see you on the next one.